Today on Locked On Red Wings, breaking down the Locked On NHL mock draft and more DeBrincat chatter.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, not a lot going on in today's hockey world. There was a trade. The Chicago Blackhawks and Boston Bruins made a deal to send Taylor Hall and the negotiating rights of Nick Foligno to the Chicago Blackhawks for Alec Regula, who is a third-round pick from the Detroit Red Wings in, 2018, I think?
Yeah.
As well as one other guy whose name is escaping me right now, but pretty insignificant impact at the NHL level. So really, this is more to do with the Boston Bruins clearing cap space than it has to do with Chicago Blackhawks acquiring Taylor Hall, who, despite the point totals having slipped a little bit here, still pretty dang good two-way forward in the NHL.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, Taylor Hall, how many years removed is he from his Hart now? 6?
6, yeah. It's crazy. He won that Hart trophy with less than 100 points.
Yeah, that was it was either 16, 17 or 17, 18. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. It certainly was not the most predictable thing in the world. But when you're looking at what Chicago is trying to do, and this will pretty easily transition us into the mock draft. But if you're looking at what Chicago is trying to do for this upcoming season, it looks like pairing former Hart winner with Bedard seems to be kind of the initial game plan here. And while, like you said, Hart certainly isn't the Hall isn't the near 100 point, 90 plus point guy certainly anymore. I mean, he still can go out there and especially he's going to have a much more prominent role in the offense in Chicago than he did in Boston, just because of the difference in depth between those two teams. So he's probably going to have a nice little, if he plays a full season, maybe get back to the 60 or 70 point mark. And then you're going to have a quote unquote generational talent playing with him. So I think that I don't expect Chicago to be good overnight and be like a threat to make the playoffs or anything. But if you're looking at what they're building towards the future, I guess I guess it kind of makes sense again for what you said as well. Boston, I don't want to use the term giving him away, right? There's a little bit of value there, but certainly
gave him away.
Right. Yeah. Certainly not the value that you would expect given a name like Taylor Hall. So definitely a cap dump situation for Boston. We know we've talked about it a lot already this offseason. They got a lot of dudes they got to pay. And I mean, the Chicago reaps the benefits there and gets to pair him with Bedard.
I mean, this is an easy win for the Chicago Blackhawks in terms. I mean, you're getting a guy like a lot of these cap dump trades. You're getting guys who are way overpaid and not performing towards their paycheck, and you're getting those guys in return, and also getting picks also. But Taylor Hall is still a very competent top 6 forward on the on this Chicago Blackhawks team, and like you said, to your point, he'll be really good with Connor Bedard kind of showing him the ropes, easing him in. And I think with 2 years left on his contract, he's a awesome trade target for this deadline and the deadline next year as well, the following year at least.
Which I feel like Taylor Hall has been
I feel so bad for him.
He's like the big trade deadline acquisition for the last 5 years in a row. Pretty much ever since he won the Hart, I feel like, honestly. I mean,
he went from Edmonton to Buffalo to New Jersey. That's where he won the Hart, and then New Jersey to Boston, I think. I think that's the train it went to.
Yeah, Edmonton, New Jersey, and then what was it? 30 games in Arizona.
Oh I forgot about that.
Yeah, the Coyotes stint too, and then Buffalo, Boston. Yeah, so I mean he keeps getting moved because he keeps, as it just started pouring rain outside my place here. If there's thunder, you know why. But I mean, just continues to be a trade target over and over again. So we'll see what Chicago is able to kind of pull off here. But I guess that's an easy transition into the draft, which is, Chicago at number 1 and obviously taking Bedard.
Yeah, and we did a Locked On NHL mock draft where each individual host did each individual show picked as if they were the general manager of their team. And that graphic is out now officially. So we're going to discuss that very briefly. There's no surprises at the top of this graph, I feel. Let me get I got to share screen. Let me get that up for you guys. Apologies for the wait.
Share the screen a little bit. Nice. High tech.
Boom. And so obviously Blackhawks, Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli at 2, Leo Carlson at 3, Matvei Michkov at 4. Any surprises there?
So no surprises there, but it is weird. And I don't buy into this personally. It's just something that has been floated out there that I think is worth keeping an eye on, is that there's a few Ducks people that are like kicking the tires on the possibility of Carlson at 2. Now, again, I don't believe that whatsoever. But I'm intertwined with a lot of Ducks people on Twitter, and there's a great hockey podcast, Late Arrivals, that does like Duck stuff mainly. And it's like this weird thing where like there's been this weird wave of like, hey, don't count out Carlson at 2. And I refuse to believe it. Maybe that's my Michigan bias peeking through just with like Fantilli, but I refuse to believe that they're not going to go Fantilli. But there is like more than you would think for, I mean, all the scouts and like media members we've had on the show in the last month and a half have said that Fantilli would go number 1 in any other draft. He just happens to be behind Bedard. So it's kind of a weird thing that there's like very quiet rumblings of. So we'll see. But no surprises. That's how I expect the top 3 for sure, and probably 4. I know Michkov's a weird situation as well with the Russian thing, and everybody has an opinion on where he's gonna fall due to that as well. So yeah, but that's pretty much how I expect the top 4 to go.
Yeah, and I think there is an argument to be made for Leo Carlson at 2 over Adam Fantilli simply because he's played professional hockey in Sweden. Like, he is currently a professional hockey player, where Adam Fantilli's played college hockey. I think it's easy to scout Fantilli above Carlson just because it's easier to see him. Although I know professional organizations are going to have either their European scouts watching this guy all the time. But we're so much more exposed to Fantilli as, amateur scouts and public scouts,
right.
People who watch the game. It's so much easier to see Fantilli. So I think that's why public opinion probably has Fantilli higher. I don't think you can go wrong. I think Fantilli or Carlson at 2.
Oh, they're both going to, that's the thing, is like both of those guys are going to be like top line players at the NHL level.
I'm not surprised at all by Matvei Michkov being at 4. There's some smoke regarding whether or not he'll fall because of the whole Russian situation. Yeah. I'm not sold on that. I think he's already, I know he has like a KHL contract that's going to kick in, but he's in the United States already. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
I agree with
just
you.
Smoke, people trying to scare people into making them fall. And then Will Smith at 5, Dalibor Dvorsky at 6, Ryan Leonard at 7, Zach Benson at 8. That's Canadians, Coyotes, Flyers, Capitals, respectively. Again, I don't see any surprises there. Those are all guys that I could see going in the top 8. Those next 4 picks there. Will Smith really saw his stock shoot up during the World Championship, World Juniors. I can't remember. I get those 2 mixed up in my head all the time. Yeah. But those next 4, make perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I think, and we obviously did a whole episode on Will Smith. Or half an episode, whatever we ended up doing. But we broke down Will Smith pretty in depth. And I think, like you said, his stock kind of shot up lately. And it was already pretty high to begin with after the U.S. season. So that's like a really fun one to kind of keep an eye on. I don't expect, like, if we're breaking this down by row, I expect the 4 in the first row to go in the first 4 picks. The second row is like, I don't expect any of those dudes to jump up into the top 4 unless there is any legs to the Michkov sliding thing, but I don't think there is. So I don't expect any of those guys to jump into the top 4. But looking at the 7-8 is like when you start creeping up on the Red Wings pick, obviously. And I mean, you can see if you're watching on YouTube, no spoilers, but like we took Oliver Moore at 9, And that's just like a really fascinating conversation of, does he make it through that? I expect Will Smith to kind of be that back end of the top 5, but does Moore make it through that 6 through 8 stretch?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more on the other side of this break. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about Gametime. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your ticket before you buy. Or give images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of second, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about the Locked On NHL mock draft, and we are on the 9th overall pick, which is the Red Wings' first pick in the draft. And we selected Oliver Moore out of the USNTDP. We talked about Oliver Moore with Prashanth Iyer, Scotty, and I kind of fell in love with the guy. I know when it was our turn up, you know, a couple other guys we were keeping an eye on, obviously, were basically the 4 guys that went before the Detroit Red Wings had their pick. And that's the kind of the case with this draft is there's so many guys that could go before or could go wherever. I know we were keeping an eye on Will Smith, Zach Benson, Ryan Leonard, and then they all got taken. So it really came down to Oliver Moore, and there was no other guy at 9 that we really wanted. All the other guys that we were looking at were already chosen off the board. And that's not to say that Oliver Moore was the last, our last option. We were very much in love with this guy. I mean, he brings a two-way game and insane speed with a touch of scoring. Like, people are considering him, as good, if not better ceiling than Dylan Larkin. I mean, with a team that struggles with center depth, he can bring such a good edge to the Detroit Red Wings.
100%. And that's like you said, I mean, it's not a situation where like, oh, all of our other dudes are off, so we have to take Oliver Moore. Like, no, obviously if Bedard fell to 9, we'd be down. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean that he's like our, even really our 9th choice, to be honest with you. But like, there's obviously a lot of really good high-end talent at the top of this draft. But Oliver Moore is somebody that I think we both kind of fell in love with pretty quickly. And it's the biggest thing is just he's a dynamic skater. Like, he's an unbelievable skater, and the potential of seeing him and Larkin on the same team, or even, like the possibility of, depending on the set or whatever, like on the ice at the same time, is unbelievably appealing. And so I think that taking that type of upside with what you can possibly become as an NHL player with being a phenomenal elite level skater is something that the Wings would love to take a swing on. And, like we talk all the time, like, this team still needs a lot of right side D help, as we talked about yesterday, but then they also need like just pure goal scoring. And at 9, you're probably not going to get somebody who's like, oh, this guy's a slam dunk to be a 40-goal scorer at this point. But if you're just going on upside of what's going to be available at the back end of the top 10, why not go for the guy that is, I mean, arguably the best skater in the entire draft, like the dudes at the top included. I mean, that's an intangible skill that is very hard to get better at and very hard to teach. Like, it's kind of a situation where if you're fast, you're fast. And so, taking the upside with a guy like that, I think, is a slam dunk for the Wings. And if that ends up happening on Wednesday night, I'm going to be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next 4, I'm just going to rattle off the next 4 because this is what caught me off guard. 4 defensemen go in a row. The top 4 defensemen in the draft, essentially. Axel Sandin Pellikka went at 10. And he, I remember after we took 9, I said, there are 2 guys I'm targeting at 17 right now if they fall. And one of them was Axel Sandin Pellikka, so he didn't really stay on our radar for very long. David Reinbacher at 11 to the Canucks. Dmitry Simashev, at 12 to the Coyotes. And then Lucas Dragisevich. Took my time. Dragisevich to the Sabres, Locked On Sabres. The Dragicevic pick does catch me off guard because most mock drafts have him like 20s or later. Like on a lot of mocks and a lot of draft rankings, he is a second round pick. So seeing him 13th overall really catches me off guard. I think this might have been a situation for the Locked On Sabres where the best defensemen were gone and they kind of just were like, well, who's next? They took best available at that position rather than best available player overall. Because Dragicevic, I really think they could have gotten in the second round. That one definitely surprised me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was kind of the mindset with, I mean, if you're looking at just all four of those teams, I think that was the mindset. Like the Blues get the best defender in the draft, no qualms really there. But then like the Canucks, I mean, we talked about Reinbacher a little bit earlier. Like that's a guy that is probably going to go in that, sure, 11 to like late teens range, somewhere in there. Absolutely. That's fine. And then the Coyotes, like Locked On Coyotes, I think that that's a situation where they had already gotten their center at 6. And so it was like, hey, how do we kind of spread the wealth around as much as possible? We already got our forward. Let's go best defenseman available again. That's what they did. And then, yeah, the Sabres just, if their mindset the entire time was really like defense or bust, then they just kind of get the short end of the stick there and have to take the 4th best defenseman available at 13, even though the first one wasn't taken until 10. Like, that's just a rough spot to be in. I think I probably would lean towards taking best forward available at that point as well. But I mean, as far as the names go, like I said, I mean, we talked about Palinka. That's probably fair. We talked about Reinbacher. There's an argument, you know, who's the best pure defender in the draft. Those two are kind of similar-ish. It's really the next two that I think that are, you know, is that the best value you can get at those picks or not? But again, like, you know, talking about already getting a Ford for the Coyotes, and the Sabres clearly just had blue line or bust there.
And so after that, you have the Penguins going at 14, Braden Yeager, Colby Barlow at 15, Matthew Wood at 16. I don't think there's any big surprises. We're in a range right now. This is such a stacked draft that a lot of these guys, for me, I could see going. I think Yeager might be a little bit of a reach at 14, but I'm not so much that I'm like, don't know what they're doing. So
no,
far, really.
And then you have dudes. I mean, there's guy like Matthew Wood, honestly, right there at 16. I mean, that's a guy that, I mean, I could see go 10, but I could also see go 25. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of dudes like that are really kind of volatile when it comes to their draft position, and there's going to be a huge variance when it with a lot of these guys.
Absolutely. So let's move on to pick number 17, which is the Detroit Red Wings' next pick. You have Gabriel Perot, right wing, 17, 17th overall out of the US NTDP.
There you go.
Memorizing that's a pain in the butt. And this is the other guy that we wanted. I texted you. I said there are two guys I'm targeting with that 17th overall pick, and that's Axel Sandin Palika. That was a long shot. I didn't think he'd last that long. But Gabriel Perot, because all signs point to him being just a crazy good finisher. And the Red Wings lack crazy good finishers out there. I mean, the amount of points he scored with the United States National Development Program this season was absolutely insane. He had 132 points in 63 games this season with them. Absolutely bonkers. 53 goals. I believe he broke Austin Matthews' record for most points in the USNTDB season. And then, you know, there's a little bit of variation in there. But Gabriel Perot, I mean, in terms of need, this team needs center depth and scoring. And so we decided to go back to back and address that need in the first round.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like, this is a situation for us. Like, if you're looking at, you know, like positional fit, we kind of just, I don't want to say we threw that out the window, because this team needs more offense. And like, that's what we tried to address with both of these picks. But like, we weren't going to go, you know, oh, like, let's just take the best defenseman just because we need to take the best defenseman. We're just going to go for best player. And again, at upside with the 17th overall pick, that felt to both of us. I mean, this is another guy that, as we kept talking to people, we fell more and more in love with. And as far as upside goes in the back half of the first round, I think Perot has one of the higher ceilings of like this page specifically, you know, 17 through 32.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to knock out the rest of this and get to some Alex DeBrincat chatter that was going on in the Twitter world as of Monday, the 26th. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are breaking down the Locked On NHL mock draft. Scotty, how do you want me to do this? Do you want me to just start pumping these out and we can just pinpoint ones that catch us by surprise after?
Yeah. We can kind of just list off the rest of the first round, and then we can go individual from there instead of row by row.
Cool. So at 18, the Jets take Edward Sale. At 19, the Blackhawks take Samuel Hanzik. At 20, Locked On Kraken take Etienne Morin. I'm going to talk about that one. At 21, the Locked On Wild take Caleb Ritchie. At number 22, the Flyers take Andrew Cristall. 23, the Rangers take Daniil Butt. 24, the Predators take Gavin Brindley. 25, the Blues take Charlie Stramel. 26, the Sharks take Tom Willander. That's a steal. 27, the Avalanche take Mikhail Guliev. At 28, the Leafs take Oscar Fisker Mulgard. At 29, the Blues take Cameron Allen. 30, the Hurricanes get Quentin Musty. I think that's a steal too. 31, Canadiens get Ethan Gauthier. And then at 32, the Golden Knights get Andrew Gibson. So I kind of sprinkled them in as I was reading them. But the first one that stands out to me, man, Kraken taking Etienne Morin at 20 is, that is a guy who, by all accounts, is going to be there in the second round.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, especially with Tom Willander still on the board. And Tom Willander, the Sharks got him at 26. On the Locked On NHL mock draft. Some people have him going in like the teens. Like his draft stock kind of soared recently. So he could go much earlier. To take Etienne Morin at 20 with Willander still on the board catches me by surprise.
For sure. Well, yeah, I think even, just looking at the Sharks pick in a vacuum and Willander at 26 is obviously great. I mean, there's people that have asked us and people that we've talked to kind of breaking it down that, like not say that they're like wanting it per se, but are bringing up like, oh, Willander at 17. Like, let's just loft that out there. And you know what I mean? Like that's not a impossible conversation to have. And so that at 26 is definitely great value there. I mean, I really like Brindley at 24 for the Preds. I think that's pretty solid value. It's not anything, like crazy ahead of where we were expecting him or whatnot, but just for like where the Preds are currently, I think that's a nice fit. We talked about Musty pretty recently as well. Him falling down to 30 is pretty good value. I mean, adding a talent like that to the Canes. I mean, and we had talked about, we did that with Scott, right? Like we had talked about his style of play, and I feel like we talked about the what's the word I'm thinking of? Not style, but the system of the Hurricanes all postseason rather, right? I think that just given like style, that's actually a really, really nice fit and somebody who can kind of get the most out of that system as well. But yeah, I mean, not outside of the ones we just pointed out, I think everything else there, really the biggest question for me overall is going to be the blue line, right? Like the defensemen in this draft. There's clearly a lot of varying opinions about where certain defensemen are going to go. That's clearly the one of the biggest question marks here. And with such a deep and talented forward draft that this draft is, it's going to be a huge question mark on like the extent that some teams go of like, okay, there's clearly higher rated and people that are higher on our boards that are forwards here, but we really want a defenseman. How much are we willing to reach to bring in someone on the blue line? That seems to be a big question that I'm sure will kind of play into effect on Wednesday as well.
Absolutely. So do you want to get into the DeBrincat chatter?
Sure, yeah.
Cool. So there you have it, guys. That is our Locked On NHL mock draft. And we took Oliver Moore and Gabriel Perot. Let us know what you think in the comments.
I'm super pumped. I would be thrilled if that happened.
I would also be thrilled if the Red Wings trade one of those first-round picks and acquire Alex DeBrincat. And there were multiple NHL insiders today on Twitter, today being Monday again, talking about how the Red Wings are like the destination to land Alex DeBrincat, and that it'd be surprised them if it didn't happen. Jeff Merrick on 32 Thoughts said that he doesn't see how this ends up in any other way than DeBrincat landing in Detroit. He said the biggest issue Yzerman has is not money, but term. length of contract. He doesn't like giving out long-term deals, and
Right.
that the only reason that Larkin got an 8-year deal is because he's been here from the start, and that he's like the captain and the hometown boy. So that's something that's going to be has Yzerman hesitant. But I know Pierre LeBrun also said he called into a Sirius XM radio station and said something very similar, that it seems like it's going to be the Red Wings are the front runners to get Alex DeBrincat. And I guess my thought on that, I mean, to pile on to all the things we've said over the past few weeks, is like, bring it on. Like, there's based on the mocks that I'm seeing, I wouldn't want to give up the 9th overall pick. I'd rather give up the 17th, but beggars can't be choosers. Like, I'm okay with giving up one of those 2 picks, and one of your NHL ready prospects that aren't Marco Kasper or Simon Edvinsson. And I prefer to keep Jonathan Berggren too, because I think he is legit. But again, beggars can't be choosers. As long as it's only one of those first round picks, and not Edvinsson or Kasper, I think I'd do that trade with an extension in place.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. First off, that we made that clear last time we talked about it. We'll make it clear again. I am anti this trade if there's not an extension immediately. There should be an extension the second the trade goes through. You should already have talked to his agent and be very well aware that like an extension is absolutely happening. It's exciting to see the Wings name kind of being thrown out there, not only just like, oh, like maybe like as a legitimate threat to get him. That would be an awesome conversation if we were having that conversation at the end of the week. Obviously, I guess only time will tell. But I guess my question to you is, if the mock draft that we just broke down, if it played out exactly, and obviously it won't, but if it played out exactly as it did, as far as like who we get, and you remove Oliver Moore from 9, but everything else plays out the same, are you okay with getting rid of, I guess, like more directly, like, are you willing to get rid of the potential of getting Oliver Moore plus probably some other pick, not as highly regarded as that one, obviously, but probably some other depth pick, plus one of the prospects on the team? Obviously, we're all in agreement we're not going to give up any of like the high end super, Edvinssons, Kaspers, etc. of the world, but
I think I could live with
like prospect.
I think I could live with 17th overall, one of your 3 seconds that you have in a row, and like William Wallander. I think I could live with that. Or, a Carter Mazer. I love Carter Mazer. He seems like a very promising prospect, but I could live with that if it means getting a guy who's going to score 40 goals for you and is going to be on your team, part of your team's core.
So
when
not
they're ready to
9.
Not 9. If it's 2 picks and a prospect, I would want that pick to be 17, not 9. If it's one pick and a prospect.
Right. If it's 9, yeah. If it's 9, one of the other pieces would have to plummet in value. I guess that's a pretty Captain Obvious thing to say, but like that, yeah. I think I'm with you. I'm just trying to figure out if there's any, like, I guess if it's just 9 for him straight up, I'm down. Like, sure, yeah, I guess like that's obviously like probably swinging it too far the other way. But, yeah, I obviously we would all much rather give up 17 than 9. But I'm just trying to think, like, is it the worst thing in the world if they were to get rid of 9 and then they were able to keep more of the like prospects we like? Like, it's an interesting trade-off.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's where my thoughts are at.
Yeah, I'm pretty lockstep with you. I think, I mean, like, it's not a revolutionary thing to be like, no, give up the worst pick. Like, I think that's probably pretty straightforward in the mindset of most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting though. I would love to break down DeBrincat is a Red Wing. I'd love to have that episode be like Friday's title. DeBrincat is a Wing.
Yeah, that'd be sick, especially with.
I guess it would be Thursdays.
Yeah,
it could happen on draft night,
which it would have to if it's going to happen. What's the weather look like for the next couple days? Oh, Wednesday looks nice. Okay, cool. Draft party is going to be
good.
Pretty.
Well, yeah, we'll be there. That'll be fun.
And no, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not.
Well, that'll be cool. That'll be fun. And yeah, honestly, outside of just DeBrincat, I think there's a lot of potential trades that could happen on draft day itself, which will be super exciting. So
Absolutely.
yeah, Thursday's episode should be a doozy.
Yep. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow as well. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball.
We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Day.